All right, so today I'm going to be painting some eggs, which I've been getting a few questions about, mostly like why are they so expensive? But if you have ever seen these before, I painted a bunch of eggs before. These are all migratory birds in Alaska, which have some of the coolest eggs out there. Like these lesser yellow legs. I think I had a greater yellow leg somewhere. Like golden eagles, they have wild eggs. There's a tundra swan, they're enormous. Or even just the American robin, which we do get here. Those are pretty cool. There's a hummingbird, but I'm going to be painting some of those today, and I want to take you through it. So this will be recorded on the Trailbound Sketches YouTube. So if you do want to follow along with it more, you can go check that out, and it will look really cool. But otherwise, this is going to be a really, really, really quick one, and I can't wait to yeah, you'll see. It's so simple, it's so fun, and it just turns out great. So here we go. Without too much ado, I'm just going to grab a couple sheets of paper. I'm going to work on 3 of them just to show you kind of various stages. Some trail tiles here, but any watercolor paper will do. So here is our first one. And when it comes to painting eggs, here's kind of all the real, materials you need. I got a brush, I got some water over here, and I've got some paints and a pencil. You can use a pen if you're feeling bold, but I find a pencil works well because it's so kind of subtle. So here's the trick to painting an egg. Step 1, you make an egg shape. I'm thinking I'm going to try painting maybe we'll do a brant. That's what this egg is right here. It's a brant egg. So they're kind of like oblong, kind of cool looking things. And this is a whole lot cheaper than buying them at the store. But it doesn't help with the starving thing. Okay, so a little bit of this just with pencil. That's why it's kind of nice with pencil, is you can kind of just hack your way around it. There's that. Okay, perfect. All right, I don't know if you can see that, but there's a very, 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 very light outline around this egg. And so when it comes to eggs, you can kind of see in this one, there is just a few little kind of subtle shifts. So you got kind of it's like painting any sphere. It's tough, but it's doable. And so all you need to do is you kind of start, we're going to kind of circle this center a little bit. So whatever's your lightest thing is going to be there. In this case, like a little bit of light yellow. And then we're just going to kind of add these little layers until eventually we add our shadow. So I'm going to start with this brant egg. They're kind of yellowish. So I got a little bit of some yellow, maybe a touch of brown, and a whole lot of water. A little bit of each. That should be plenty. And you're just going to kind of fill in the full shape, but we're going to kind of circle this little bit right here. So whatever's in the middle, kind of the lightest, that is what we're going to kind of circle. Something kind of like that. So if you can see it, you got the white there, and then kind of this light color right there. Now, the next bit is we just kind of fill in the rest of this egg shape. You really only need to like make this perfect shape once or twice. So a pencil can work kind of well because it kind of makes it feel nice and light. Just around right there. Don't worry too much about this bottom part. We'll be adding another layer here in seconds. And then I'm working fast because I want this to be pretty smooth. So here's a dab of water right there in the kind of top section where there's all of that lightness. And I'll kind of smooth stuff out. So it's not looking crazy, but it won't until right at the very end. And then we're going to add a little bit of shadow down below. So maybe just a touch of brown, maybe, I don't know, purple or something. Just something that takes whatever color that is and makes it a little darker. More water, of course. It's all about timing and consistency here. And now I'm going to paint in the rest of this. Now, if things are too wet, they're going to kind of smear all over the place. If they are too dry, it's going to make these really kind of hard layers and not look three-dimensional, which is why, I mean, that's like eggs in general, right? Too liquidy, and they are like eating a raw egg too much, and it is like, eating chalk. So just like an egg, you kind of got to get it just right. Just adding a little bit right there. There we go. And I'm already starting to get some blooms, which is actually something I love. You can kind of see those cool little details. Watercolor and eggs are a perfect combination because they they allow you to kind of get some of that natural kind of shape and mixture and color that you might not otherwise. That is perfect. Okay, and then finally, if you want, you can add one more layer, kind of Goldilocks this stuff. You can go not three bears are kind of the trick. I do find that if it looks good like this, you should just leave it. But if you were to add another layer, maybe a touch of indigo, some water in there, you could just subtly just put just enough right there at the bottom, but you don't want too much. Okay, so you can see that right there. There we go. This is the first stage of the egg. Might need a little bit more in a second, but we're gonna let this dry. So basically you can do everything in like 2 or 3 stages, which I'm gonna do 3 of them for you right now. So here's our brant egg. Put that right there. On to the next one. You'll see. When it comes together, it is so, so, so cool. I'm actually gonna toss this down below by the heater just to keep it drying a little faster. Painting in Alaska in the winter. Heaters are a must in so many ways. Okay, next egg. Why don't we do a Wimbrel? That's this thing right here. Kind of a wild looking shape of an egg. Actually, fun story about this one. The reason these eggs are this shape is, I think, twofold. One is to keep them from rolling out of nests, but also you can like fit 4 to a nest. You can kind of fit a bunch more of them in a clutch than you might be able to otherwise. But I know some of these eggs have funny cone shapes because they'll roll really tightly in a little circle, but they won't roll out of something. So I'm not sure if that's with the Wimbrel, but it's kind of a cool function. Okay, so that egg, this is how you're going to sketch something like that. You just do a little bit of this kind of conical shape. Simple, but it works. And you'll see when we come back to our brant or our other eggs, it's really simple how they come to life, but it does take just a couple little steps. Here's our Wimbrel. Just a loose shape with the pencil there. And then these are pretty green things. So I'm going to add a little bit of some yellow, maybe a touch of green. Same like I did last time, I'm just going to kind of circle where that light is going to be shining on it. Adding a little bit more green now to the side. They're actually kind of bluish too. And then maybe some blue down there as well. Something kind of like that. But working fast because I want it all to feel like it's one single layer. I want it to be smooth. Just like that. And I'm going to come back in here in just a moment with some water and add that right to the center. Just right like that. Not too much water, that's why I have some tissue right here, as I can kind of control that. Okay. And now let's get whatever that bottom layer is, maybe some blue. And we're just going to go right up to those lines. Usually just on one side too. Like you'll notice I'm not adding this dark layer on the top because just how eggs are and how eyeballs are, you're not going to see kind of the dark layer on both sides depending what kind of light you have. Oh, you can see this is already almost too dry. There we go. Quick egg shape. There we go, something like that. And then I can just use water and kind of move the rest around as I need to. Just pulling it around. You kind of only need to get that perfect shape once, and then the rest of the times you can be a little bit off. But there you go. That's the start of a Wimbrel egg. And next step with Wimbrels in particular, because look how spackled these things are. The next step is adding these little dots, but that doesn't happen until a little bit later. So like I said, we're just going to bounce between these. I'll show you the brant now. Here is this. You want to see? So the water is doing some interesting things, and the blooms look pretty cool, but our kind of shape is gone, isn't it? Like that shape of that egg is mostly gone. So we'll start doing phase number 2 here in a second once I work on our, well, actually, maybe we should do 2 eggs today. We'll do a Wimbrel and a brant. That's enough. So phase number 2 is going to be to add just a little bit of a layer of shadow right here. Sometimes you can get it on the first one. Usually it takes a couple different tries. So all I need is a little bit more of that color, a little bit more kind of brown, some purple in there. That's kind of what I do for a dark yellow. And I'm going to cover up that beautiful bloom, but it's okay because these are pretty light layers, so you'll still see it. A little bit of blue in there as well, why not? And I'm basically making kind of a half egg shape right here, working right up to the edge, and then I'm going to use water to pull that around. Here we go, a little bit right there, maybe even a touch up here. If I'm quick enough, I won't have all dried, I can just use a little bit of clear water, just touching the edges, and making that introduction all the way around, but not quite. And then, now that I've introduced the paint to the water, I introduce the paint water to more water, and I go once more around, just circling that little, not a bald spot, but a light spot on the egg until we have something like that. And that's round 2, and you're seeing like that shape is slowly coming to life, but the shadow is what is really going to make this pop off the page. It's kind of a cool thing. So we got layer 1, layer 2, and now we're going to let this dry just a little bit longer. I'll bring back the Wimbrel. And this is kind of why I do, honestly, kind of big paintings with lots of eggs and stuff like that, is because if you just did these individually, you'd be doing a lot of waiting time. So instead, I kind of work on 2 or 3 at a time. So I'll jump back to that Wimbrel, and we'll do kind of the same thing. Okay, here's our Wimbrel. Feeling dry enough, but seeing some lovely kind of shape there. So what I might do now, because that looks totally fine. We got enough kind of shading and definition. Is with this Wimbrel, I'm actually going to add some little splotches. Let's see, on this one, you can kind of see there's different shapes. You got the shading, you got kind of some splotches, and then you've got these like hard little lines. So for something like this, I'm just going to add these little tiny splotches here and there. Maybe a little bit of blue or something. That's, whatever it is, it's watered down. It's darker than what's on the egg, and it's watered down. If you ever get the chance to see one of these eggs in real life, whether it's in a museum or if it's in the wild, maybe you should not be this close, but you get to see one, you can really get the actual colors. But here we go, a couple little splotches here, a couple there, and you'll notice this is watery paint because I want it to dry pretty transparently. A couple splotches here, a couple splotches there. And we'll be coming into some way darker spackles, but for now, this is what we need. Maybe a little bit more brown in there. Just having some fun with it. A little bit here, a little bit there. Okay. Beautiful. You could also do this with big drops of water if you wanted. You can just kind of flick, just like that. Oh, maybe you can't. How's this working? Nope, not today. All right, well, I guess we're doing it by hand. That's all right, too. There we go. A little bit of everything. Nothing I put in a museum yet, but you just wait. This is going to come to life, and it is cool when it happens. So there's our Wimbrel. Back to the Brandt. What I'm doing down there is I'm just switching it off. I have like a little glass cup in front of the heater, and I'm just kind of placing one there and switching off the other. So now this is kind of dry. We have a really cool opportunity to do some little spackles on this Brandt. So that's what I was kind of trying to do earlier, failing. But you can see there's just a few little tiny pieces right there. It might not seem like a lot, but they add a ton, I find. And so there's a little trick you can do to keep the mess down, because we're about to go basically splatter paint all over this nice white sheet of paper. But if you take a little sheet of tissue paper or something like that, Kleenex or some toilet paper, and you make a spackle where you don't want it, just quickly dab it down, and it basically disappears. You could also be fancy and you could like cut a hole out of one of these. You could, basically make a perfect little hole and only spackle where you want it to. But I don't have time for that, so I'm not going to. Okay, just adding a little bit of water now. And I'm going to place some right on some brown maybe, but kind of making things a little bit all over the place. There we go. Something like that. It's all about getting that consistency right. And then I should just be able to flick. There's one. There's a couple more. I'm just kind of flicking a couple little things, and it makes it nice and random feeling, because it is. But then with these, they kind of go awry, and just quickly, boom, gone, vanished. Pretty cool, huh? Now there's a few more that I don't want to kind of be quite so random. I can just mix up some nice watery paint, just like we did earlier. Make something a little bit bigger. Sometimes I do this to the edge because as the egg kind of folds over, you're going to get more spots that you can kind of see as they kind of stack up. So I usually try to make sure that there's a couple more spots on the edge than there are right in the middle. Just how sears work. Unless you believe in the flat egg conspiracy. Just a few right there, a few right here. It disappears over the horizon of the egg. There we go. A little bit on that branch. Now this is starting to look something like an actual egg. It's kind of fun, but like I said, it's that shadow that is going to bring it to life. And we may still actually add one final little layer here, but we'll see how it feels. Okay, so Brant, mostly check, almost all the way there. Now let's go dive right back down to the wimbrel, which is close but not quite fully dry. So this might make it exciting. Go get that Brant going. And if you have a chance, definitely, if you're on YouTube, definitely give a little subscribe or a like. It helps other people find videos like this, and it just takes a second, which means a lot. Or better yet, join the newsletter. We are putting together a wild newsletter. One day it might even be physical, which would be really fun. But on the Trailbound Sketches website, you can join, and we send all kinds of stuff that we just, it's like all the good stuff is in the newsletter. It's just a fun read, too. That's who our real community is. If you're on the newsletter, you're in. Okay, now with this wimbrel, we have, let's see, we've got some of these really dark shades because of this egg. And so I'm actually going to add some of those right now because we kind of only have our midtones. And that's what's so confusing about watercolor is you don't really feel or see like the full scale of what you're working on until those last few strokes, which are the darkest. So it's kind of like you're working on just like an unfinished building until the last second when you add the siding, as opposed to like putting up a shell of a building and filling it in. It's going to look kind of rough until it doesn't. So I got some nice blue here, some nice purple, a little bit thicker than it was before. I'm just going to kind of do that same thing that we did with the Brant, just adding a little bit of that shape. You'll notice I'm not going right to the edge because just how egg dynamics are, it wouldn't show. And this covers up some of the spots, but the ones that are dry, this transparency will show through. A little bit of water now going over. And look how much more 3D that looks now. Just getting the consistency just right. Honestly, I kind of feel like this kind of smooths down these back splotches too, which is perfect. Consistency just right. Maybe add a little bit more down here if I need it. And the final part for this will be the shadow and those like darker spackles. The crazy thing with the spackles, they all happen like in the egg. I mean, like they're laid like that, which is so cool. Birds are amazing, but like just the scale of eggs and yeah, the scope of it, such cool stuff. All right, so there we go. This is already looking like something that could work, but trust me, it gets better. So I'll let this dry here, and now it's back to the Brant. Boom, there we go. Okay, is this looking like something you'd eat? I think Brant eggs are pretty huge, so maybe I won't eat one of those, but here we go. We're going to be adding a shadow now. Although if we wanted to, we could put another little layer, but I think this is looking really, really, really good. One thing I might actually do is add a few more little spots, but make them nice and dark, like a cool color. So whatever is down here is going to be kind of a cooler color. So you can kind of continue that illusion by, if you want to put a little blue or something like that down here, it'll That'll just show up a bit better. But mostly I'm procrastinating because the next spot is the scariest, is because we are going to be doing the shadow. Here we go. Nothing like messing this up on live, so let's see how this works. The shadow is going to be indigo or blue or something, whatever it is. It's cool. That's just how shadows work. And I'm mixing up the perfect consistency here. I don't want it to be too strong. I don't want it to be too liquidy. And I'm going to be not putting it exactly around the edge. This egg is sitting, they are oblong, they are not going to lay flat. So my shadow is going to kind of be the same shape as the egg, just like offset just a little bit. So basically it's going to be like this shape, but it's also not going to be the perfect, darkness the whole time. So we're going to do this kind of weird thing where we basically make like a crescent moon around it, and then I'm going to fill in the rest with water. If all goes well, this will be great. Otherwise, here's me ruining a painting. A little bit right there. And you'll notice I'm not totally touching the edge of the egg. Like I'm not painting in too much. I can always add in more if I need, but I like a little bit of light if I can, just kind of shining through. Gives a bit of separation. Looks awesome. Look at that. Okay, here's this. That's all that we need. And then quickly, grabbing a bit of water, maybe a touch of this, and I'm going to pull this color out and around. Here we go. Just pulling it out. Still making the loose same shape as the egg, that oblong one. And just trying to get a nice little gradient here because I want that, it's way darker right below the egg. It's going to be way lighter far away. We'll see if that works with my paint. You never quite know. Concentration is real. Okay, and at some point you can't go back over it though. You kind of want all this need to like be done at the exact same time so it's still wet. Okay, I think that is basically all I can do right there. Voila. Okay, how's that? Pretty cool, right? I mean, that is an egg. And it just comes together. It's the shadow that brings it together. It is just the coolest thing. And now we have this sweet brant egg right there. There's no limit at the grocery store on these. I'm not sure if you're even allowed to eat them in real life. I think they might be a protected bird, but I'm not sure. And I mean, what a cool thing. I don't know. Anybody else get like as stoked as eggs as I do? Maybe it's because I grew up like reading the chicken magazine, which had all kinds of cool paintings of chickens and things. But this to me is like the simplest, the purest. It's just one of my favorite watercolors to do. Let's do another because we have that Wimbrel. I'll put that one right there. And let's get onto that Wimbrel, which should be mostly dry. Little test. Yeah, it feels, I felt drier, but you know what? That's going to be okay. It's going to work. So here we go. With the Wimbrel egg, that is going to require some actual spackling. And so let me show you the technique that I sometimes use. Here is a rough trail tile that I used for some other stuff. Fortunately, they are madly functional in all things. All I'm going to do is fold it and tear just a little circle out of the middle. Just like that. And boom, look at that. Look at that little stencil. Now, when I put this here, only what is in the stencil will get sprayed with, theoretically, only what is in the stencil will get sprayed with my watercolor. So I'm going to put a little bit right here, and I'm going to mix up a big old pot of something dark and spicy. A little bit of indigo right here, maybe a touch of purple, but you can also just do the colors independently too. You can do indigo and then purple. I'm just going to take this and I'm going to flick it. So there's two kinds of flicks. There's this kind where you just go like this. So we did with the brant. Flick, 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 flick. Voila. Or you can go like this, where you take a finger and you just go boom. This gives you a really, really kind of fine spray. If that's what you're into, great. I kind of prefer not terrible. I kind of prefer the bigger flicks, but but they're way less controlled, and I'd say 10% of the time you just outright ruin your painting. But maybe it's the wondering that makes it fun. A couple right there, and not terrible, right? I mean, for just some random flicking. I'm just going to come in there and just a few stray drops. And then, of course, you can always come back in as well with your brush, and you could just very intentionally put a few dots here and there that need it. And like I said, there's going to be more kind of the edge as they kind of go away off the other surface of that egg. But also, don't make them too even. Nature is random, but in that randomness is beauty and symmetry in such a cool way. Voila, voila, voila. Okay. Gotta make it done. You could dot eggs forever. But the nice thing is, because we kind of did all these layers beforehand, we've got this really cool sort of multi-layered pattern. Like if you want to do camouflage, this is how you do it. You do kind of big shapes on the back with a neutral color, and then you work more and more forward with less distinct shapes. And it just gives this really cool look. And that's exactly what these eggs are meant for. They're meant to disappear into rocks and crevices. They're meant to keep a chick very, very hidden and secure, and it works. But look at that. I mean, that is cool, isn't it? A little bit further off than what I actually planned. Probably more like a marble merlet or something like that, but not a bad try. And now the scary part, we're going to work on the shadow, unless of course anybody has any questions, but you can always send those over to Trailbound Sketches. We've got a great website, email, Instagram, whatever it is, Blue Sky, the newsletter. Let us know, because if you have a question, chances are somebody else does too, or maybe I'll learn something too. It's all good. Okay, now the moment of truth. Here we go. This part always kind of freaks me out too, especially like when that looks decent. It's like, oh boy. Oh. All right, a little bit of indigo. Don't mess this up. Don't mess this up. Don't mess this up. A little bit of indigo. Going right over to the edge right here. That's actually some pretty dark indigo, but that's okay. That could still work. And here we are. We're off to the races. Kind of following the shape of the egg. Right down. And over around. You can see that nice little line that I'm kind of leaving. I love it when that works out. But if I end up breaking it or something, the beauty is I can just kind of come right back in, like what I'm doing right now, and I can absolutely evaporate that. How cool is that? Just gone. There we go. Okay, and then a little bit over here and over and around, just like that. Oh, maybe not my best, but let's see if I can recover this. So there is a general shape, and now let's come in with some water and kind of diffuse all of that. A little bit of water here, a little bit of indigo, and just kind of working through and working around. Right over here. There we go. I didn't quite get that conical shape, but the beauty of these sketches too is they're so quick to make. You can do another one if you want, like there's no shame in trying this again. I often suggest that with paintings, because I feel like the second time you do something, you really kind of get it. And you have an extra to give away then if you want. You kind of paint it forward. But that turned out just okay, I think. That's a fun one. Check that out. How about that? Just let it dry for a second. See if there are any questions. One person was wondering how I got into sketching. And for me, I grew up with dyslexia. I'll say I'm dyslexic, but that's what really kind of changed a lot of it for me. Is I would write things down, looking around for writing, but I don't have much right here. I'd write things down and they'd always be misspelled. I get those red lines just under everything. It was terrible. And I didn't feel like people were actually seeing the stories I was trying to tell. But my grandmother, who was an amazing painter, really inspired me to sketch. And you can't misspell something like this. You could write poems about it and all of these things, but when you can actually see something as cool as this, the birds that lay it or whatever you're sketching, I mean, it's amazing to see that come to life. And I love to share that. So that's kind of where it all started. And being able to share these things has been really cool. And also being able to track down some of my grandmother's old sketches has been just like the journey of a lifetime. So I can't wait to keep on doing more stuff like this. And if you're new, you can check it out. We've got tons of tutorials, a bunch of free ones on the Trailbound Sketches YouTube, but there's also some really cool stuff on the Trailbound Sketches website. And if you get a chance, definitely send me some of these. If you made one of these eggs, let me know how it turned out, because you could, like, there's no way you could do the exact same thing with the eggs in particular. Every single one is going to look unique, and they're just so, so, so cool. So I'm really excited to see how yours turned out if you get a chance. But mostly, I hope you had a great time sketching a few eggs, and send us a message. Let us know what you want to sketch next. Or maybe if you want more eggs, what kind of bird you want. Should we do like a basic chicken, or maybe we should sketch an emu? Or who knows? Like like the common raven? I mean, that's what that one looks like, which is pretty awesome. That's a little different. Or the mures? Maybe just a bunch of hummingbirds all at once. I don't know. But you should let us know and have a great time sketching. And don't forget to paint it forward. If you made two of these, probably give one to somebody else.